You know that piece of paper on your desk? Or the box from that package you just got? They seem so simple, right? But they come with a massive, kind of hidden energy cost. And that's especially true in places like Bangladesh, where industry is booming, but it's also just gobbling up a ton of energy. So today, we're going to dive deep into what it actually takes to make these essential industries a whole lot more efficient.
Okay, I want you to look at this number. 47.8%. Almost half. That's how much of all the energy in Bangladesh is used up by the industrial sector. Just wow. That single number really tells you how big the challenge of energy efficiency is. So, why should you care? Well, because cutting this down is absolutely crucial for sustainability, for the economy, and yeah, for the planet.
All right, so to really get our heads around this, we're going to tackle it in 4 parts. First up, we'll meet the energy guzzler at the heart of our story. Then, we'll dig into the biggest hurdles. What's holding things back? After that, we'll look at the driving forces pushing for change. And finally, we'll talk about unlocking all that potential. Let's get into it.
So, Section 1, the energy guzzler. We're going to unpack the energy appetite of a really critical industry.
So, to put this in perspective, the pulp and paper industry, let's call it the PPI, is the 4th largest industrial energy user in the entire world. It uses about 5% of all industrial energy. I mean, think about that for a second. It's obviously super important for the economy, but its energy footprint is just massive. And that's exactly why it's the perfect case study for figuring out this whole energy efficiency puzzle.
So, what's the actual goal? Well, it all boils down to this thing called industrial energy management. And look, this is not just about flipping off the lights or using less power. It's about being smarter. It's the whole shebang. The systems, the procedures, all the best practices that let a factory make the exact same amount of stuff, but while slashing its energy consumption and, its costs. The big idea is to close what people call the energy efficiency gap. Basically, the gap between the energy a factory is using right now and the absolute minimum it could be using if everything was perfect.
Okay, which brings us to our next section. And honestly, the big question here, the biggest hurdles. I mean, if the technology's out there and you can save a ton of money, why isn't this problem already solved? Why are so many places still so inefficient?
Well, as this quote points out, the answer, it's not simple. It's not just one thing you can point to. We're talking about this really complex web of issues. Some of them are about people's behavior, some are about how companies are organized, and some, of course, are about money. So let's unpack what the study found are the biggest roadblocks in Bangladesh's paper industry.
And here we go. This chart just lays it all out. The top 3 hurdles. And what's so fascinating is that none of them are about technology. The biggest one, a policy issue. Not enough attention from the government. Number 2 is a people issue. Staff just aren't aware or motivated. And number 3, well, that's a money issue. It's hard to get the capital you need for upgrades.
And I mean, just look at how many managers feel this way. It's overwhelming. A whopping 92% said the government isn't paying enough attention. 86% pointed the finger at a lack of staff awareness, and 82% said they simply can't get the cash for these projects. This isn't just a small problem. We're talking about really deep, system-wide challenges here.
But okay, it's not all doom and gloom. And that takes us to our 3rd section, the driving forces. Because even with all those hurdles, there are some really powerful things pushing the industry in the right direction. So, what's actually making things change?
So, the number 1 driver, turns out it's demand from the company owners themselves. And right on its heels is a strong commitment from top management. So the big push for change is really coming from inside, from the very top. And then number 3 is pressure from the outside, from customers and from NGOs. It's a mix of internal leadership and the market saying, hey, we need this.
And this is where it gets really, really interesting when you put them side by side. The biggest barrier is seen as something external, blaming the government's lack of policy. But the biggest driver is totally internal, the owners wanting change. And that creates this amazing tension, right? Do you just sit around and wait for the government to do something? Or do you push ahead because it's just plain good for business?
Okay, that brings us to our final section, unlocking the potential. We've seen the good, the bad. Now let's talk about the numbers. What's the real opportunity here, and what's a practical way to get there?
So just how much energy are we talking about? Well, according to the managers themselves, there's a ton of low-hanging fruit. Just by putting in the efficient technologies that are already available, stuff you can buy right now off the shelf, they figure they could save 4 to 5% of all their energy. I mean, that's a huge win with tech that's just sitting there ready to go.
But hang on, it gets even better than that. On top of those savings from new tech, they estimate they could save an extra 6 to 7% just by putting better energy management practices into place. You know, the stuff we talked about earlier. And this is so important. A massive chunk of the solution isn't about buying shiny new equipment. It's just about changing the way you work.
Okay, so how does a company actually get past those huge roadblocks we saw? The limited cash and not having the right experts on staff. Well, there's this really promising idea out there called an energy service company, or an ESCO. And it's a business model designed to do exactly that.
So how does this actually work? Well, think of it this way. It's like a special contractor comes to your house, does a bunch of renovations for free, and then they get paid by taking a little piece of the money you save on your energy bills every month. It's the same idea. First, the ESCO comes in and does a super detailed audit to find where all the savings are. Step 2, they pay for and install all the new efficient stuff, so that whole no capital problem, gone. And finally, they get paid by taking a cut of the money the factory saves on its energy bills. I mean, on paper, it's a perfect win-win, right?
But of course, it's never quite that simple, is it? Even this really clever solution has its own set of problems. The biggest one? The fact that there's no standardized way to do these energy audits. After that, it's a big one, a simple lack of trust. And finally, a lot of people just don't even know what an ESCO is or how the whole thing works.
And that really brings us right back to the central question of all this. The solutions are there, the potential is crystal clear, the savings are massive for both the businesses and for the environment. So if we have all that, what's going to be the thing that finally closes this gap between knowing what we should do and actually getting it done?